Thank you, Chairman Rush. Today's hearing focuses on an issue that greatly impacts the Southwest and Arizona, preventing catastrophic wildfires. I do want to mention that I'm in agreement with the gentleman from West Virginia when he talked earlier about what other countries are contributing more and more CO2 into the atmosphere, even though they've indicated that they want to do less. But that doesn't mean that the United States doesn't lead. If they're not leading, and they're so large, then somebody has to lead, and I think our citizens want us to lead. Arizona CD1 includes all or part of 6 large national forests, and also the Grand Canyon, each of which is filled with ecological beauty and play an important role in Arizona's rural communities and the state's water supply. I've actively supported forest restoration policies for over 15 years. In the Arizona legislature, I chaired the Natural Resource Committee and co-chaired the Governor's Forest Health Oversight Committee, which produced a report that with recommendations for stakeholders, local governments, the state, and Congress. We need to maintain forest health and prevent catastrophic fires today. My office provides active oversight and support for the U.S. Forest Service's Forest Restoration Initiative, FORFRI, the largest restoration effort in our nation. And it does have its problems even after what we've done the last couple of years. Last summer, nearly 2,000 acres burned in Flagstaff. Not a lot for Arizona, that's a really small fire. But it was in Flagstaff, which is surrounded by our national forest. And it was within a block of homes. Luckily, people got to it fast. During the museum fire, I'd like to thank Arizona's utility partners, state and federal agencies, and our first responders for actively preventing the museum fire from worsening into the next tragedy. The climate threat is real, and we must take every measure possible to prevent future wildfires from devastating our forests, which help our air quality and capture carbon, are critical for the water supply into the future for Arizona and for the Colorado River. And I do have a question for Dr. Collins. Your testimony highlights the rate of forest restoration efforts nationwide as insufficient. I would be in agreement with that. FORFRI is one of the largest forest restoration efforts nationwide. I would like to see forest thinning in Arizona pick up the pace. They are critical and also for economic development in rural areas. What barriers still exist that prevent the pace of forest maintenance?
I think we've talked about some of those today. Obviously, things tend to always flow back to funding, right? But one of the things that we haven't talked about that's kind of interesting in my interactions with folks on the Forest Service at the district level is how much trouble there is internally with regard to the NEPA process itself. And I'm not saying that the NEPA process is problematic inherently, but it's gotten so complex that even within what they call an interdisciplinary team, they cannot agree on priorities. Each specialist, the aquatic specialist, go on down the line. Each specialist sort of protects their own duty, and as a result, the area for treatment gets trimmed further and further. So it's amazing to me. We always think about sort of some outside, litigants and things like that, but it's actually some of the internal stuff that's really difficult to overcome.
And in the case of the Forest Service, they might want to expedite it, but there's other agencies involved all the time.
Sure.
And that might not be their immediate priority. And so that lengthens the process also. Mr. Davis, could you comment on whether the research efforts of the U.S. Forest Service and the rest of the government agencies for productive uses of forest byproducts and biomass are sufficient?
There's excellent research being conducted. I do believe that if we reframe the scale of work that needs to be conducted on our landscapes to invest in research at that scale, we would see an investment in research collaboratively across federal agencies, across private universities, public institutions, NGOs. There is research being done that's advancing this, but I don't think it's at the scale that we need to see to be able to move this into a functioning economy.
And then, Doctor, you also highlighted the natural effect of controlled fires leading to an increase in biomass remnants. In our case, biomass, if we can't get rid of it, we can't thin those forests out. That's just a fact. And I just think we need to get going on that. How can biomass and forest byproducts, and I'm the wrong way, Mr. Chairman, thank you.